Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Julia Polston with Workin' Roads and Indiana Constructors, Inc. And today I'm joined with Kirsten Fowler, and she is with the Asphalt Association of Indiana. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Julia.
I guess we'll just go ahead and dive right into the questions. So if you want to go ahead and tell everybody what you do at APAI, who APAI is, and how long you've been with the organization.
Sure. So I joined APAI, which, as you mentioned, is the Asphalt Pavement Association of Indiana. I joined the association in 2016 as their technical director. I became executive director the beginning of last year in 2019. So it's been quite the whirlwind of 3 to 4 years of meeting everyone in the asphalt industry, getting around to different construction sites, working with committees, and just been a really fun few years of learning more and more about the industry.
Awesome. Well, I know when people hear organizations, because obviously I've mentioned two that I represent, and you obviously work for APAI, and that's who you represent. So a lot of people may not be familiar with APAI. So if you just want to kind of tell everyone what APAI does, that would be really great.
Yeah, so I would sum up the goals of the association as really just being an advocate for building quality asphalt pavements in the state of Indiana. So basically, our membership is made up of contractors, associate members, liquid suppliers, even engineering consulting firms that all have that goal in mind of constructing quality pavements. We work a lot with the Department of Transportation on various issues or concerns that affect both parties, and it's really all about collaboration as an industry and with the department, to do various education and opportunities for our members to connect with one another. We do things like training, committees, of course, a lot of similar objectives of what ICI's association has with a focus on, work zone safety, and really just, great construction and it being a great place to work. So I'd say a newer focus of ours has been workforce development. We've done a lot more outreach as far as like trade shows and, various programs that we've participated in, groups we've connected with, like the Future Farmers of America, to try to recruit and then retain individuals and students once we get them into our industry. And I would also add, aside from myself, our other staff persons, Jamie Hunkler, she's our member services manager. So if you do interact with APAI, a lot of times it will be Jamie, because she's in charge of so much of what our association does, from programming to marketing to a lot of our meetings.
That's awesome. That's great. And that's one of the many reasons why I appreciate you doing this with me today, is because highway construction, it's such a large industry and there's so many facets of it. So I'm glad that we're able to highlight your facet of the industry. You mentioned you've been with APAI the last few years as executive director, but if you want to go ahead and share with students your career journey, kind of like where you started and how you got to your position now.
Yeah, so I went to Purdue University. I'm from the Indianapolis area, grew up in Greenwood, graduated from Purdue in 2011, and I studied civil engineering with a focus in construction. And while I was there, I just kind of happened into an internship my freshman year. I didn't really have specifics of, what I thought my career trajectory would look like, or even what sector of civil engineering I wanted to work in, but I ended up with an internship at a Reith Riley construction company in Indianapolis, and really just fell in love with the construction industry, the variety of how each day is different, the opportunity to work outside and be on project sites, and then also get to tackle, some engineering type, problems and things from like, an office standpoint. So it was really just a great combination, a great fit for me. So I I did 2 years, or well, continued with another 2 years. So 3 years
Mhm.
total as an intern with Reith Riley, and hired on full time after I was done, working mostly in quality control. So that's really where I have the foundation of having that experience working in a laboratory, testing, design
Mhm.
of asphalt mixtures. After about 3 years of that, I decided I needed to try some engineering consulting. So I went to a engineering consulting firm here in town, and I got to, more work like towards getting my professional engineering license, learning a little
Mhm.
bit more about how the design process works. And I really think the combination of having like the construction, in the lab, on the job site experience with what I learned, when I was at the engineering consulting firm in design, I think the combination of the two really prepared me well for what I'm doing today, which is being at APAI, and it's a job I love every single day. Amazing people, and just a really great industry to work in. So it couldn't have worked out better for me. I'm probably unique that I don't have family who's worked in construction, but it's a
Mhm.
great fit.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the good thing for you is when you're actually sitting in meetings with members and they're talking specifics, you actually understand what they're talking about, which is really, really great and super helpful. I know that you mentioned, as a lot of people tell me all the time, working within the highway construction industry, one thing that they love is that their day-to-day typically isn't always the same. And especially right now with COVID pandemic happening, a lot of people are learning to work remotely, hence why we're doing this conversation on Zoom. But with the pandemic aside, um, could you explain what your day-to-day typically is like? Whether I'm sure there's probably some things that kind of stay the same every day, or maybe they don't. But if you want to explain to students, as an executive director for an association, what that's like.
Yep. So I would certainly say that my job's a little bit atypical of what a typical engineer would do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, on job sites or doing roadway plans day in and day out, estimating jobs, any of that. But a lot of my time is spent like coordinating committee meetings and advocating for our industry with NDOT, responding to member, questions,
Mm-hmm.
really trying to figure out what the objectives or the current hot topics are for the association and how we can.
Yeah. I know you mentioned that you were engineering major in college, but can you remember of a specific moment when you knew highway construction was the industry that you wanted to work in?
I mean, it really was that first summer that I did as an intern,
Mm-hmm.
able to have like hands-on experience, like from day one in the lab. They were like, here's asphalt. These are the tests we run, and really getting to play a part. And what I
Mm-hmm.
saw is so many factors that go into building a quality road, and I was just like the one sector of that, and I just really.
Now, you've explained what things you love about the industry. I mean, there's so much about highway construction that makes everybody fall in love with the industry. But thinking back on your career, what is or what has been most rewarding about your current job and working in the industry?
I would say the people I've met along the way. I mean, when you're doing a job 40 or more hours a week, that you really start to form friendships and get to know people fairly well in this industry. And road construction has some of the hardest working, most honest family people that I have ever met. And
Mm-hmm.
whether that be men, women, all the way from people who at 18 years old, you know, picked up a shovel and have worked their way up and, worked long, hot hours, but are committed to the part that they play in building a road, to, the vice presidents of these very large companies, to the people I've met in the association world. It's just been, it's a lot of good people that I've met through my occupation.
Yeah, what I always tell people too when they ask anything about this industry, especially if they're younger people, I always tell them one of the main reasons why this industry is such a good industry to choose is you don't just get a job. You're choosing an industry where you have a career path.
Mhm.
That's one of the reasons why I love this industry so much. As an executive director of an association in highway construction, what would you say is the number one skill set that you must have to succeed in your role?
So when I talk to students, and whenever I get this question, and I would almost go as far as to say just about any job that you can do out there. I think outstanding communication is the most important thing, whether that be the ability to have face-to-face conversations, to present yourself well in a large meeting, to give presentations at the various like industry events that we have,
Mm-hmm.
ability to just like, correspond with people by email. A lot of the times at the end of the day, what we're doing is solving problems. And the best way to solve problems is by being able to communicate effectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Looking back, when you were younger and looking at where you're at now, is there any advice that you would give, that you can think of, that you would give your younger self that would have helped you as an adult in your career?
I think for me, when I think back to myself as like a young woman in the industry at 22 years old, there weren't a lot of other women like me. I mean, I was in an office of 50 people, and there was a lot of women like on the administrative office side, but from an like operation standpoint and estimating engineering, and then all of your like union workers in the field, it was almost all men. And one of the things that I've gotten involved in is the Women of Asphalt. So we're in a national association, and we're really trying to connect women with one another at different companies. Because I think, while I have the best experience and I have had some outstanding male mentors, and just everyone I've worked around in this industry has been fantastic, I've also felt that there's like that added, I don't know, just like added connection when you can meet, another woman in this industry, and especially when you can look up to someone that's had a family, or like they've been able to like, manage both. So like the Women of Asphalt, something I'm really excited about. I've, gotten more involved in, and we're trying to grow that, really across the country. So.
Yeah, that's great. And that's what, whenever I also tell people I'm in this industry, they automatically assume, oh, you work with all men, which, yes, it is technically a male dominated industry, but over the years, I have noticed more women coming into the industry, which is really awesome. And then there's people like yourself that are a great example, being executive director over an association. So, and you have your PE and you have experience in the field, which is really, really, really awesome.
I think as a woman, I've had all the opportunity in the world.
Oh, yes.
Just opportunity for advancement, opportunity to learn. I mean, I've never felt like there's been, I can't pinpoint one single experience to where I felt like I was treated differently because I was a female in this industry. And I think that just goes to show how outstanding of people we do have in it. But I do think that there's more we can continue to do to diversify. And I think it's really an educational process for women, or I guess you'd even say, like a high school girl, to understand that opportunity does exist for her. So right now it's about 92% male in the asphalt industry, and we're hoping to change that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm the same way with you. I mean, I haven't, with my career journey in highway construction, I haven't actually been on the side where I'm out in the field. Mine's more in like marketing and talent development. But I mean, I'm the same way with you. I can't think of a time where I've had a negative experience. I've always had very positive experiences with everybody that I've worked with. And like you mentioned, I've had really good mentors throughout my years of being in this industry, which is really, really awesome. If a student came up to you and asked, why they should choose a career in highway construction, whether, they're thinking maybe go right into the field, like go right into getting a job straight out of high school, or if they decide to take the college route, what advice would you tell them, or what would you tell them to encourage them to stick with going that route?
I think something that's really like maybe unique, or just it's really cool about our industry, is that we play a part in building something that just about every single American uses day in and day out. And that's the roads we use to get from point A to point B, right? Like our lives would be drastically different without, the highway and the infrastructure that's been built in the country over many, many years. And like, I love Indiana. I'm like a Hoosier through and through. I've never lived anywhere else. My family's here. I love my community. And to be able to drive around these cities around this state and to feel like, you know, that I'm able to play a part, you know, and what API does plays a part in building these roads that basically change the world we live in. I think that's just a really neat thing to be able to like tell people and to be proud of. So I think that's, you know, if a student asks me like, what's your favorite part about your job, or what's the coolest thing that you feel like you get to do, it's like, it's driving on the roads, the asphalt roads that all of our members in the association and the Indiana Department of Transportation and the 365 team that you all have worked on, like we all play a part in that. So it's my favorite part about it.
Yeah, I always tell people, as a kid growing up, I mean, my dad's in this industry too, and if you would have asked me like 10 years ago, while I was in school, would you work in highway construction with your dad? I would have probably said, no, I don't think so. And here I am. But growing up as a kid, I remember on the weekends, we'd always have like AAU tournaments or cross country and track meets. And there was me as the student participating in those sports, or it was like my sister or my brother. I felt like anytime we were on our way home, my dad would always take a detour. And we're like, Dad, why are we going this way? He's like, I have to show you this bridge that I was a part of. And, you know, as a kid, you think that's really awesome. But as I've gotten older and I'm actually in the industry, it's definitely made me gain a better appreciation for that. And it's also nice too, now that I've been in the industry for a few years, when my dad's talking to me about stuff going on at work, I actually understand a lot better, which is really cool too. But going back to talking with high school students, and as you mentioned with APAI, one of your biggest things that you guys have been working on is workforce development. So students in high school, what career paths would you encourage students to look at that are at high demand right now in highway construction?
Well, when I talk to people, the first thing that I think comes to mind is just individuals that maybe aren't necessarily on like the path to college being a great fit. I mean, there's a like I don't regret going to college. I I'm glad that I did the 4 years and I have my civil engineering degree, but there's certainly a ton of opportunity that's available just by being able to like work hard, show up to work on time every day, pass a drug test. I mean, like if you can do those three things, the opportunity that's out there for you, you know, if you're wanting to drive a piece of heavy equipment or even just work your way up from a labor level, like I'm serious when I say we have companies out there that have thousands of employees, that have people in the number 2 and number 3 positions who didn't go to college, and they're in those positions because they have worked hard and they've proven themselves. And I think that's the neat thing about our industry, that opportunity is there. From like if you want to come directly into some kind of more of like entry level management position, you know, you can study something like construction management or, you know, civil engineering. And then from there, you can kind of choose if you want to go like the vertical route, which is building, versus horizontal, which is roads. So it's just a lot of variety, a lot of opportunity. I would say always be open-minded to anything that may come your way. I think you would ask just about any of us, especially those of us that don't have family in construction. Our pathways been, it's been a lot of like twists and turns, and where we've ended up has surprised us. None of us would have ever thought we'd end up here. So hopefully that answers the question, gives some of the opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, great answer. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this with me, and I'm really excited for students to watch this and get a little insight on the asphalt part of the industry. And then as always, if any students have any questions, they can reach out to me, reach out to APAI, and either talk with you or Jamie. And then of course, always any of our members are open to talk to students too. So thank you so much again, Kirsten, for this. This is great. And I'm sure we'll talk again some other time on some other type of workforce development issue.
Thanks for having me, Julia.